Hello, friends. Welcome to Coding Garden with CJ. Do I look okay? Something look different? It's probably fine. Welcome to CJ and the Search for Happiness. So, everything's gonna be okay. Thank you, Mark. I'm fine. I am a very happy person. But what we're gonna be building today is basically a place where you all can share what makes you happy. So there's actually a movie that I watched recently. I mean, I've watched it before, but I watched it again recently. It's called Hector and the Search for Happiness. It's based on a book. It has Simon Pegg in it and a ton of other great actors and actresses. Let's find it on IMDb. Search for Happiness. It's a feel good movie. There's a lot of cliches, but it has really good acting. And what happens in the movie is this guy Hector is searching for happiness. This is great, the real Pygon. So happiness is remembering you bought a power washer and washing off the pollen off your car. It could be anything. It could be absolutely anything. But he goes on a journey and he journals what he finds in the world as to what makes other people happy. But I thought it would be interesting if we built a website that listens for messages in Twitch chat. And then anytime someone says happiness is something, we'll put it in a database, and then we'll make a website where anybody can go there and see what makes other people happy. Yeah. Is it like The Pursuit of Happiness? I don't know if I've seen that. Is that the one with Will Smith? Let's look it up. Pursuit of Happiness. It's not. No, this is very different. It might be like it. I've never seen this. Yeah, absolutely, Infi. Yeah, so there's going to be some moderation we have to do, like filtering for bad words or people saying things that they shouldn't. But the main idea is this will be a place where you can go and you can read about what makes other people happy. Sometimes it'll probably be funny. Sometimes it might be sad. But all in all, it'll just be a nice little fun project that I'm going to build right here, right now, and hopefully just like get it done right now. I have a meeting in about an hour, so we're just gonna code. We just have to code. Oh, that was a different one? Okay, there is a Pursuit of Happiness. I don't think I've seen that one either. But let's go. We're just gonna write some code. I appreciate you all for being here. Potato, it's Gritson. Thank you for that 2-month resub. I don't know why we didn't hear the notification. But lots of support so far. Frey Demazi with that 2-month resub. Good enter time of day, everybody. And the Sheboss with that gifted sub. There's the notifications. The real Pygon. Thank you for those bits. Timon Dev with the 7-month resub. Can you give me and the rest of the audience a short explanation of bit calculations in JavaScript? I can link you to the documentation. I myself don't know them very well. But if you check out the bitwise operators on MDN, check out Bitwise. They give a good description of what each one does. A lot of it has to do with, I guess it because it is bit shifting. It's like a binary number where you shift the bits. Shift the bits is changing one of the zeros or ones in the number itself. That's a general explanation. But for any one of the operators, you can look up what exactly it does. And Elon Musk with that 2-month resub. Thank you very much. Who says, thanks for all your hard work. I love your streams. Oh, thank you. I love that you're here, Elon. Thank you very much. Okay. What else happened? What else? We got Potato. Thank you for that. Bloated Knickknack with the 2-month resub and Danger Mouse with the 6-month resub. I don't know. I should probably take some time to fix this. The fact that these notifications didn't pop up. But I just know that I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And the Sheboss has a thing to say, but let's take a quick stretch. The Sheboss says, I started a Java applications developer job this past Monday. It didn't take that long for me to get one, and I'm sure that it's in part because of you and Jitter Ted. So thank you so much, the Sheboss. That's really great to hear. Yeah, the Sheboss has been getting a degree in, was it computer science or software engineering? But that's awesome. You got a job. And also, shout out to Jitter Ted. They are a live coding streamer as well. They often do Java, and they do a lot of test-driven development as well. So shout out to them, and congrats, the Sheboss. That's good to hear. Okay. Let's go. Let's write some code. I appreciate you all. Hello, welcome to the show. If you're new here, you can do this. Type ! Drop me in the chat. It'll fall from the sky. If it lands in the garden, just like Fridolin Nimrod, Fridolin Nimrod, you'll get your name on the screen. Like, let's see who this is. And it's 12 easy. And K Weekman, how you doing, K Weekman? Thanks for being here. Yeah, so you can do that. You can also customize your name in my overlay. Read about it there. You can also set your pronouns in my overlay. You can read that there. And if you have any other questions, just ask the chat. They're really, really helpful. And you can also check out our frequently asked questions. But anybody in the chat, if you see somebody having a question, feel free to answer it if you know the answer. Okay, let's go. I need to make a plan. Like, how are we going to build this thing? So, yes, this is the app. It's going to listen for Twitch chat, and then anytime it detects a message that says happiness is, it's going to put it in a database along with the user's name, and maybe we'll grab some profile information as well. And then once we have all of that, we'll build a website that showcases it. So, to do. I miss the LEDs too. It's just a bit of work to set up. We used to have LEDs that you could control from chat. Yeah, things probably happened. If you said something and I missed it, feel free to say it again. Okay, we need to set up the server. So we're going to have a back-end application that listens for Twitch chat. This is going to be a Node.js app. I think I'm going to use SQL. I may regret that decision, but we almost always use MongoDB here. So I think we're going to set up like a Postgres database. I think that's the plan. So set up the server, set up a Docker container with Postgres, not SQLite, just because it is technically like a multi-user application, though there is only one process that's inserting data. It doesn't matter. We're going to do Postgres because it's easy enough. Set up a Docker container with Postgres. Okay, after all of that, listen for Twitch chats. We will parse the message. This means like look at the message and see does it match the criteria of happiness is. We'll then insert into DB, great. And then after that, we need some sort of client. So we'll set up the client. So this will be the web page that people will actually go to see all of these happiness is quotes. This will need to, I thought about this, and I think what I'm going to do, I have plans in my head, we just need to do it, but I think this is all just going to be serverless, like it's going to be a serverless, well, actually, can it be? No, it can't, it has to be a long-running process that's listening for Twitch chat in the cloud. Never mind, it's not going to be serverless. Okay, so we might even end up hooking up Socket.io, so that way we can emit messages to the client. I don't know. I'm just gonna go. I'll say build the rest of the owl once we get here. We got work to do though, so let's start. I'm gonna use my Express generator that I created. It's called Create Express API. It basically just clones down the Express API starter that I created. Oh, that's not right. Why is Mongoose insert? It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Yeah, we're not going to use feathers. I think this is easy enough to just set up with a basic Express app. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to run this command. This is going to generate a server folder that has just a basic Express API. We'll call it API. So it's going to create a folder called API. It's going to create that. It's going to have all the things we need for just a basic Express app. So we'll go in there. It installed dependencies. We'll open that up with VS Code. It has one high security vulnerability. Let's fix that. Let's do, we're going to do an NPM upgrade on the project I need to do this on the base project that it cloned. But yeah, it looks like ESLint and Mocha are out of date, so we'll update those. Go. Hopefully that gets rid of the vulnerabilities. Every now and then we do stuff for total beginners. Right now, yeah, the real Pygon says, build the rest of the owl is what my boss thinks development is. Yeah, just do the rest. Just do the rest. Oh, that's good to hear, OG. Happiness is drop table quotes. Yeah, so we'll prevent SQL injection, and I'll show you how we'll do that. Okay, we should be able to just start this up. We can't because the default port is 5000. So let's change that. So we have an example env file. We'll just add our own .env file. we'll add the port. We're going to set it to 4455. That's the port. And now when we try to run it, it should use that port. And by default, I already have NodeMon installed. So NodeMon listens for changes in my backend code and then restarts the server if anything changes. But we should be able to go here. Great. We get back a message with rainbows and unicorns. And I think if you go to API v1 emojis, that gives you back some emojis. Okay, so we have a basic API. Now it's just a matter of listening for Twitch chat and then like putting it in a database. Let's just go ahead and listen to Twitch chat so we can start seeing that happen. Happiness is a noun. Well, thank you, David. Happiness does not equal sadness. Yeah, there's actually a really good quote from the movie where it says that happiness is not ignoring the things that make you unhappy. That will just make you even more unhappy. You have to confront things. You have to live your life to the fullest. Things are going to be unhappy, and that's okay. You get through them, and that makes you happy. Life is life in general. Just living in all the things that make up life will make you happy. Okay, what are we doing? We're going to listen to Twitch chat. So I'm going to use TMI.js, which is a wonderful library maintained by one of the mods here and one of the bots here, Alka. Everyone just type the word Alka in the chat. ALCA. We'll see his bot pop up. I think he's probably sleeping right now. I don't think I've used Express Validator. Yeah. So every time you say Alka, well, we might be overloading his bot, but his bot should respond to you and just say hi. It should say hi right back to you. So at least said hi to Imphy. Are there any more? Yeah, there might be a timeout. Cool. But Alka maintains this library, and this is a really easy to use library that lets you connect to Twitch chat. So what we're going to do is we're going to install it, and then we can start listening for messages, and then we'll do something with them. So let's do that. Right here, we're going to install TMI.js. Okay, don't do it too much. He does have server bills to pay. We don't want to spam his bot. Happiness is closing all the tabs after fixing an error. Heck yeah, isn't it? You know, just like that feeling of relief. I mean, for a lot of people, cleaning up is happy. Like, it doesn't have to be cleaning up tabs, but just like making your space nice and orderly and tidy. That makes people happy. Okay, so we installed TMI. Now we need some code that will listen for Twitch chat. I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to call it lib for library. Yeah, why not just call I'm going to call it library because it's a library of code. I've literally never called the directory library. I usually always call it lib. But then people get confused because I think I'm saying live. We're going to call it library. It's going to be a good time. So we're going to create a Twitch listener.js. And inside of here, it's going to do the business. So the first thing we need to do is to bring in TMI. So we're going to bring in TMI.js. Well, I have Twitch chat emotes visible. Oh, we'll have to probably do that later, but eventually, yes. So just like I'm rendering emotes in this chat here, it's possible. It just takes a little bit extra effort. I think for now, we're just going to focus on text. A warm blanket in a cold day with your coffee and a cat. Nice. If you do !theme, you can get a link to my VS Code theme. Okay, so we're going to copy and paste this code right here. And so what this will do, we're gonna lint it. Debugging is true, which means we're gonna see all of the logs that happen as you send messages. We're gonna see those. It'll reconnect if it disconnects. We actually don't need an identity because this is just gonna be a read-only thing. I mean, eventually it could be right. Like when you say happiness is, we could send a message in the chat that says, thanks for your submission, and like a link to the submission. But for now, we're just going to listen. And then we need to listen on a specific channel. I'm going to put that in my environment variable. So process.env.twitch channel name. And then I'm going to set this to be Coding Garden. And that way people can set up their own backend that listens to other Twitch channels. So Coding Garden, this needs to be the name of a Twitch channel. So this is going to listen in Coding Garden. It's going to connect, and then when we receive a message, this right here ignores messages from itself, so the bot doesn't like reply to itself. And then we'll just say if message.match, we'll just do a quick little regular expression. So it needs to start with happiness is, and we'll do it case insensitive. So if you send a message that starts with happiness is, we are just going to log it out. We're going to log it to the console. And then eventually this is where we'll put it into the database. So tags.username, and then we'll put their message right here. Cool. Okay. So all of this code just runs like when this file gets loaded in. I think I'm going to put it into a function. I'm going to put it into a function. So we'll just create a function that says, that's called like listen Twitch chat. And then we can call this function from the outside world, which will actually start the listening. Great. Yeah. Right now, at least for what I'm building, I am going to just focus this on messages from my Twitch channel. But eventually we could do something that just listens to all of Twitch chat. And then anytime somebody says it, we could add it in. We could put the channel. We just need to get it working though. Okay, so we need to export this function so that way we can use it elsewhere. Listen Twitch chat like that. And then now in my main app file, so this is the file that runs whenever the Express app starts up. So it does the business. It requires all the dependencies, sets up the routes, and then right about, let's say right about here, we want to listen to Twitch chat like that. And so I'll just require it in. Library / Twitch listener. Cool. That should do it. So now in the console here, it's connected. And then anytime, well, actually, any message you send is going to get logged here. Yeah, because we have the debug on. But yeah, there they are. There's the happiness messages. Let me remove debugging so we don't see all the extra stuff. Debug. We can put it in an environment variable. Let's do that. So we can say debug if process.env.debug Twitch is equal to true. And then for now, we'll set that to false. Right? Chia. Okay, here we go. Happiness is %_payload. Nice, potato. Happiness is getting something done and showing your imposter syndrome you're not worthless. Heck yeah. Happiness is unicorns. Happiness isn't Kappa. Happiness isn't? No, is that what you, is that the sentence? Happiness isn't? Oh, are you saying that my regular expression is broke? Is that what you're saying, Andrew? Happiness is finding one of your favorite side monitor streams live. Oh, thank you, Major Lift. Thanks for watching. Lapsy says happiness is getting the perfect drop on Coding Garden. Happiness is view. Happiness is test. Happiness is writing code and having it run the first time. I'm never happy. Happiness is 42. Happiness is watching your stream. Happiness is having someone to return to. Yeah. When you you have like a partner at home or a friend or even a dog and you get home and they're there and they're very welcoming and they're glad that you're there and you're glad that they're there. Happiness is life without COVID. Happiness is spending time with your loved ones. Yeah. Someone remind me. I'm going to tell you all what I think happiness is near the end. Once we get this thing working. Happiness is real? ? Okay. Andrew makes a good point by way of the fact that our regular expression allows people to say happiness isn't. I think that's okay. But you could say happiness is not. We're going to put a space there. You have to have a space. Happiness is a warm gum. Warm gum? Like chewing gum? Happiness is the absence of happiness. Unhappiness. Possibly. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but happiness, well, I think you can still be unhappy and happy at the same time. I think there are just different levels of happiness and unhappiness. Let's take a quick stretch. Yeah, well, the idea, so Dumper Talk is mentioning that there might be too many and we might need to get rid of them, but the idea, at least that I'm thinking of, is there will be enough of them that we can just cycle through them. So even if there are some trolly ones or ones that don't make that much sense, they'll only be there for a few seconds. Okay. Happiness is meeting childhood friends. Yeah, I have a friend, well, not childhood, but friends from college are coming into town this week. And that makes me happy. Okay. Great. Let's look at our to-do. What have we done so far? Oh, that's not it. It's going to be here. We've set up the server. Yeah, let's get a database going. So as these messages come in, we want to put them in a database for posterity. So a database is persistent storage. Right now, this is all ephemeral, right? Like if I kill this server, and hey, Acid Spark, 1 year, all the months. Thank you very much, Acid Spark, for that 1 year resub. Happiness is getting resubbed for a whole year. Okay, but yeah, when the server restarts, all those messages are gone. They're not being saved anywhere. We need that, and we need a database for that. And for that, we are going to use a little thing called Docker. We're going to look at the Docker Hub for a Postgres image here. I'm going to go ahead and start up Docker because I don't think it's running. But Postgres is an open source. Oh, I have an update. Skip it for now. So Postgres is an open source database. It's pretty cool. I like it. And one of the reasons I'm using it is because you can host Postgres databases for free on Heroku. So that's what we're going to use whenever we deploy it. So we're going to use the latest version. They do give us an example of a Docker compose file that I want to use. Yeah, this. Right here. I'm just going to copy it. Happiness is Kappa. Happiness is beans. Why not Mongo? I feel like doing something different. Also, I'm making it a little bit harder on myself, but that's okay. Here's what we're going to do. So in the root of my API project, I'm going to create a file called Docker Compose. Docker-compose.yaml. And this stuff goes in here. And basically, this is a description of the Docker images that I want to run. And I want to run a Postgres image. It's going to alias it to DB. It's going to restart. That's fine. And then we can set up environment variables for like the Postgres user and the Postgres password. This adds adminer, which is it's kind of like PHP myadmin. I actually don't want that. I don't need it. Don't need it. Maybe I do need it. Keep it there just in case. And we'll put it on port 8888. So what this syntax says is this image will have a service that listens on port 8080, but on my machine, I want to be able to access it at this port. So that's great. And I think we're going to do a similar thing here. And I think I do have Postgres installed locally. I'm going to just make sure that I don't have it running. So brew services stop Postgres, because I don't want my local Postgres running. I just want to use the one that's in this container. Yeah, it's not started. Great. So like we can't even, I don't have great. I don't even have Postgres locally. It's only going to be running here. You could think, so Prashanth is asking, what is a Docker image? You could think of this as a little computer. I mean, it's not. It shares a lot of the resources with my computer, but the idea is this is a pre-configured computer that has Postgres installed. It's running some version of Linux. It has everything that Postgres needs to run, but it's all wrapped up in this nice little image called Postgres. And then when I spin this up, it's going to pull that image down from the Docker Hub and then run it locally, and then I'll be able to access it on port 5432 because that's the default Postgres port. So that's great. Let's look at the other environment variables that they offer. Postgres underscore password, Postgres user. So we can define ahead of time what the Postgres user is. I'm just going to make it happy, and the password is going to be happy. Let's see what else. We can name the database. I'm going to call the database happiness is. Yeah, it's like a virtual machine, but it's not. It's less resource heavy because a virtual machine literally emulates everything. It emulates the screen, it emulates memory, it emulates a CPU. Whereas this shares the resources of my machine, but it's still sectioned off. It's a container. It's a little bitty container. Happiness is the name of the database. And I think that's it. The other thing we want to do is we want to specify a volume. So that way, when I restart this image, it has all of the data persists, because usually images are also ephemeral. I've used that word several times today. Does everyone know what ephemeral means? It's not permanent. It goes away. So when you spin this up, it's there, but then you can spin it right back down. But I want a persistent volume. so that when I spin it back up, it still has the data from the database. And I'm just going to call this db data. Volatile? Yeah, I think volatile is probably a synonym. Ephemeral is temporal. Yeah, it's temporary. That's a good word. Mortal and immortal. Okay, so what this says is inside of the container, this is the data directory. This is where Postgres keeps all of its data, and we want it to store it in this directory in a folder called db data. We'll go ahead and add this and then git ignore it, because I don't want to push the db data up to GitHub, but locally it'll have all the data that it needs. And then I'm just going to add db data as a git ignore, just so I don't forget. db data. I think this is all we need. What is a good reason to use Mongo over MySQL? If you have related data. The thing is, this is honestly a perfect use case for... I'm plugging my laptop in. That's what's happening. This is a perfect use case for Mongo because we're kind of just throwing data into it. There's not really many relations, but I think eventually we could have relations. We could have a table that stores our users, and then users could be tied to messages. We could have a table that stores Twitch channels, and then messages are tied to Twitch channels. There could be relations. For now, there's not. I think we're going to have like one table. So we're just doing it for fun because we don't ever use SQL here. This is fine. Technically, I'll say this. Technically, I could create a Docker file for my Node.js app, and that could run inside the Docker container as well. I'm not going to do that. It's just going to connect to the database on this port, which isn't a container. This should be fine. Let us eat cake. But actually, here's what I'm thinking. What's happening? This. Okay. Instead of hard coding these, I'm going to set these to be environment variables. Like this, I think I can do. We'll see if this works. Yeah, if I start it up and I get an error, then we know that these things are working, and then I can put them in my .env file. But that way, my Node.js app and the container will read from my env file to pull in these values. Okay. Okay, now that we have that file, I can do docker compose up. It should pull the Postgres image. Great. Database is uninitialized and super password is not specified. Okay, yeah. So the fact that it can't find the password means that it is pulling this value, which is blink. So I'm going to define all three of these in my .env file, and that way, when I write the code that connects the Node.js code to the database, it'll just pull in these exact values. We won't have any duplicates. Happiness is. David with the 5 months. Hearts. Thank you very much for that resub. Okay, so now that we have those defined, it should pull it in. So you can see that it generated this db data folder. Well, actually, no, it didn't. I created it. There's nothing in it. Great. It couldn't start up. We're going to try again. Let's go. The files belonging to the database system. Wait. What is the error we're getting here? Okay. The database cluster will be initialized with locale. Exists but is not empty. You know what? I think we need to remove it. Let's remove it. It'll create it itself. Here we go. This is the winner. Yeah, okay, that's what I like to see. So now it fixed the permissions. It's going to put all of its stuff into that db data directory. This should be good. Yeah, then it'll spin up and we'll have a database. Yeah, server started. Great. So now that the database is up, we should be able to connect to it on port 5432, but also we should be able to access this adminer tool. Let's see if we can get to it. So if we go to localhost port 88888, and we say that we are connecting to a Postgres database. Now, technically, this container is going to connect to the database within the virtual network that was created. So the host name is actually just DB. It has that, right? Username, happy. Password, happy. Database, happiness is. Great. We connected. Adminer or adminer? I don't know. I don't know. Squeedon says I'm really lost when it comes to databases. We'll get there. We'll get there. So all we've done so far is we now have a database. Now we need to connect to it and put some data into it with our Node.js codes. The way we're going to do that is with a library called Connects. So I'm going to install Connects. I think it's just Connects, not Connects.js. Should be. And then I should be able to do npx connects init. Is that a thing? Init with no dashes. Beautiful. So that creates the connects file, and this is how we connect to our database. Adminer? Yeah, I think it's like administration database. I'm using connects because it's easy. It is not an ORM. This is a query builder. So an ORM would require creating models and stuff like that. This is going to be super simple. We're going to get rid of all the rest of these. We just have a simple connection when we're in development. The client is going to, we need PG. So PG is the underlying Postgres database connector. Down with the socks, or down with the socks. Thank you for that prime sub. Down with the socks. Cool. So we'll say use PG. And then if we look at the connect docs, they'll show us how to specify the rest of the connection information, like the username, the host, etc. Client. And Mooley, with that resub, just started watching. What are we building? We are building a website that listens for Twitch chats that say the words that start with happiness is. And we're just going to create a database of all the quotes of people that tell us what happiness is. So as an example, happiness is central air conditioning. I thought of that one, was it day before yesterday? Because I just turned on my AC for the first time because winter is over now. It was like 80 degrees in my house, and I totally forgot that I have an air conditioner because I've had the heat on all winter. And we turned the AC on, and it was very comfortable in my house, extremely comfortable. And that's a great feeling to have. The fact that I can control the climate in my living space. Postgres user, I think the name of it. So yeah, happiness is central air conditioning. So Postgres user, we'll also add one that is Postgres host, and we're going to set this to localhost. But when we deploy, we can set this to like our deployed host. Okay, so Postgres user, we should have our Postgres password. Happiness is discovering AC. No, 80 degrees Fair. I'm in the US. We use Fahrenheit. I use Fahrenheit. I don't know. What is 80 degrees? Everyone ask Alka. Say 80 degrees F to C. Just say Alka. Or actually, can you just do it? I don't know. Somebody will figure it out. Postgres name. Postgres database? Postgres host does not equal database host. You are right. Thank you. I'll fix that. Happiness is Celsius. Let's just confirm. Postgres host, Postgres user, Postgres DB. Yeah, we'll get it right. These two have to match. So these are the values as I'm defining them, and then this actually brings them in. Okay, so this little bit of configuration should allow us to write code that connects to the database. That's great. Now we need a table to store all of the information. So I'm going to create a migration. Database migrations are typically used to basically keep track of changes to your database. In this case, our database is completely empty. The migration we need is to create a table. But you could have a migration that just adds a column to a table, or creates new tables, or different things like that. So we're going to create our initial migration. So I think I can do, let's take a quick stretch. 26.7 degrees Celsius is 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Which is not, it's not horrible. I know a lot of people like live in that kind of heat, but it's pretty hot. It's pretty hot. Okay. Hey, Definite Optimist, thanks for being here. NPX connects migrate make. So this is going to generate a migration file where we can describe the table that we want. And we want a table for happiness, a table where we're going to insert this happiness. And I guess I could just, we'll call it initial. Wolfram does have an API. Yeah. Okay, so it created the migration. It generated a folder called migrations, we can see. So here's this folder, migrations, and then inside of that, we have our initial migration. And basically, Connects will run this file when we want to run migrations. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to export an async function like this, and then whatever we export as up is what should happen when we run the migration. So when we run this migration, it should create a database table. When we roll back the migration, it should drop any tables that were created or any changes that were made. Yeah. And what's up, Melky Dev? Thanks for being here. Can we get a shout out for Mr. Melky himself? The table of happiness. Nice. Yeah, that's what it is, Danichu. The table of happiness. Okay, so we need to define a table. So I will do connects.schema.create table. Now, I sort of have this memorized only because I use it so much, but all of this is in the Connects documentation. If you check it out here, there's the query builder will let you query the database, but there's also DDL, data definition language, in the schema builder, and you can create tables. So create a table, give it a name, specify the columns. Cooking ham. Thanks for that Prime sub. Oh, yeah, and thanks for that, Andrew. So this is a neat little trick where in which you can get nice autocomplete. And I think can we do like import connects, something like this? I think so. So what this should do, my syntax might be wrong, is it should say, now see it says it's any. Should it be the other way? Connects. Yeah, connects is of type import connects. And then, oh yeah, with quotes, of course, because it's an import. And then, nice. Okay, so what that allows us to do is, no, it didn't work. We need it the other way. Connects. I don't know. How do we do it? It does put .default after import. Okay, so but I think this goes inside the curly braces because this is the type. Oh, you're right. Yeah, look at that. It suggests it. The default export. Okay, that's the one. Schema dot. Huh? Connects. There we go. We've done it. Okay, we have autocomplete. But this is a JS doc comment that VS Code uses, so you can tell it what the type of that parameter is. But all that does is it pulls in the TypeScript definitions, and then we have nice autocomplete like create table. Okay, so create table accepts the name of the table. Let's call this. I guess we'll just call it messages. The thing is, the database is called happiness and the user is called happy. I don't want to get too confused. So we're going to literally create a table called messages. And then on that table, we need some columns. So I'll say table.increments. That adds an auto-incrementing ID column. I'm going to add a string for message ID. And so this will be the message ID that comes from the TMI.js. So this will be like a unique ID. We then want probably the username. So that's going to be the Twitch username. And then we want the content of the message. I think by default, string is a varchar 255. So a variable character thing that can hold up to 255 characters. Yeah, so by default, it's varchar 255. I think we'll actually just use text, which is an unlimited length, a dynamically resized length. if we were doing, if this were the real world, I would figure out what's the length of a message ID and what's the maximum length of a username, and I would set these to probably a string, and then I would define what is the maximum length that can be stored. If this were the real world, this isn't the real world. This is Twitch, so we're just gonna say you can put as much text as you want in there. Yeah, we could add upvotes and downvotes. The only issue is like referencing what do you want to upvote or what do you want to downvote, and I think that would be a good case for showing how migrations work, and that later on we could create a migration that adds the upvote and downvote column. Are we in the matrix? It's possible. The advantage of strings over text. Well, so text is, at least in Postgres, text allows you to store a string of any length, and it's dynamically sized, whereas varchar is fixed. You say, I will only be storing strings that are a maximum of 50 characters here, and the database has a restriction on that. It will not let you store anything more than that. Whereas if we look at text, adds a text column with the optional text type. So MySQL has text types where you can do like short text, long text. Postgres just has text, which it can be infinite text, or at least until you run out of database space. All right, do we need anything else? We've got the username, we've got the content. We could add more, probably get some info about the user. Knife? What are you talking about? The real Python? Oh yeah, I like that. So we'll add a date time column for like created at. So when was this message created? Nice. I think we'll also put the user's avatar URL so we can show their Twitch image. And we'll also put display name, because Twitch has two things. It has the username as it's stored, and then the display name is what is like the camel cased version of people's usernames. I think it does have timestamps. Let's see. But that does created at and updated at. Right now, I don't think we're going to be updating these. These just go into the database and they live there. They are not updatable. So I'm going to leave it as just created at. Clear? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Linzon. I have a ton of videos on my YouTube channel that are good for beginners and kind of get you started from scratch with stuff like this. But I'll say, like, Node.js is very approachable, I will say. Very approachable. If you're used to coding in a strictly typed language, you'll probably feel, what's the word? You want your types, you know, you want your guidelines, you want the editor to help you a whole lot more. But I've coded this stuff enough that like I know at least how it works, and it's good enough for me. But yeah, I think you can learn it. I think there is hope. Nice, Neep. Neep is learning English. Well, welcome. Hopefully my English is learnable. Can I upload this ahead of time? I missed some parts and it would be really helpful for my senior years. Yeah. Well, do you mean like the code? I don't know. We're running very short on time. Very short. So we have our database table. I think this is good. Anyone mention other columns that we might need? Oh yeah, channel ID. I'll do channel name. Yeah. I think that's great. Channel _ID. And this, yeah, that's also text. But that makes sense because eventually we could be storing messages that come from multiple Twitch channels. Yeah. Hey, you're welcome, Linzon. Okay, this is our up migration. When we run these migrations, it's going to create the table. When we roll back the migrations, like let's say we want to revert the database back to what it was, the opposite of creating a table is dropping a table. So I'm going to do drop table if exists messages. So that way we can bring it up, we can bring it back down. But I did this so I could show you the autocomplete. So drop table if exists messages. Cool. So when we bring it up, create the table with all of these columns. When we bring it down, drop that table, not schema, drop table if exists. Okay, so now that we have this migration file, we can use the connect CLI and make it happen. Let's see if it works. So npx connects migrate latest. So run the latest migrations. This is wrong. It's connects space migrate : latest, like this. All right, password authentication failed for user CJ. I don't know why it's trying to connect as CJ. If If we look at our .env, we've got Postgres host, localhost, Postgres user, happy Postgres password, happy Postgres DB, happiness is. If we look at our connects file, we've got Postgres host, Postgres user, Postgres password, Postgres DB. Yeah, so I do have a connects file. I thought it would use it by default. Oh yeah, port. Well, I am listening on the default port, but you're right. We should definitely add it. Thank you for that. Port. I don't know why it would be connecting as CJ though, because it should take this info. Oh, you're right. You're absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. This is not pulling in my environment file when the connects file runs. You're totally right. You're totally right. Because when the connects process runs, it's standalone. Later on, when my actual API is using this code, it would have already brought in the .env file. But that's the issue. I need to just do this. Require .env, which literally reads in these values so that it uses the right values. But we'll set this to 5432. All right, here we go. Moment of truth. Ta-da! One migration run. Awesome. And if we go back to our little adminer thing and we refresh, we should see a messages table. Look at that. So we've got our meta table. So connects migrations is what it uses to keep track of what migrations have run. And if we look in the messages table, there we go. We have the definitions. So message ID, username. We probably should have set some of these as not nullable. But that's fine. It's just fine. Let's just put them in the database. It's cool. So we have a database table. Now we need to write some code that inserts those messages into the table. Let us do that. Where? We'll create a new folder. Let's create a folder called DB. What's up, Mr. Demon Wolf? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the show. Yeah, I'm gonna create a folder for DB. Because we could have some queries in there. Yeah. We're going to create a folder called DB. And then inside of that, I'm going to create a file called connection. And this file will export a connection that the rest of my app can use. So we need to bring in the connects library. And the way connects works is you invoke it with your configuration. So all of that config that we had defined in the connects file, basically it takes this. So, I mean, technically you could copy it, you could paste it right here, and then that is going to give you back a connection that you can use to query the database. We don't want to do this. You don't want to copy and paste. We want to bring in that config and then pass it in. So we'll just require it in. So we'll say connects config is bring in, go up one directory, grab that connects file. Great. But you'll notice the connects file has a few properties. Well, top level properties. Right now it has the environment, which is development. Technically, we could add a production one as well. But really, production is going to be the exact same. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create two. I'm going to say connection is this. And then we're just going to copy and paste that into a config for production. But the idea is you could have different configurations for different environments. So when you deploy to production, this could be a different environment variable or more configurations. And locally, when we run in development, it's going to use this. But for my purposes, it's exactly the same. So, but I'm just going to do that. So that way, when we deploy, we'll use this one. But for now, we'll grab it from here. So I'll say the environment that I'm in right now is process.env.node.env. So this is like a standard environment variable that gets set in most node environments. That's usually either production or development. So we'll do that. Or if it's not defined, just assume that we're in development. Great. And then now our config is the connects file at that given environment. So that should bring in the development one, which is that object. And then we pass it in like that. All right, let's export it. And now we should be able to use this connection to query the database or insert and stuff into the database. So we need validation. We need stuff. Coding is hard, requires work. I'm going to create a file called queries, and this is where I'm going to put the code that queries the database. And then we can pull that into some other file and do things like insert a message or something like that. So I'm going to export an object, and then we'll have a function that's like create message, and that takes in the message, and then it does the business. So that will actually insert it into the database. So we need to pull in the connection. So we'll just say, let's call it DB, and that is just that connection file. And then we can query stuff. So I can say DB of messages dot insert message. And I guess because we're using Postgres, we could do returning everything. So it returns the inserted item. This returns a promise. And I know those of you that are watching, I know what well, those of you that know what you're doing are like, you're just going to pass it right in? You're not going to validate it? At least for now. We'll just make sure that it's working. And then we'll add some validation. You don't ever want to just put random stuff into your database, especially if it's coming from Twitch chat. So right here, we will do the validation. Yeah, I'll fix it. Before we insert it, we'll validate the message. But for now, this is fine. Everything's fine. Why is this complaining? A comma is expected. Disagree. Oh. Because this is the created message. So insert that message into the database, returning everything, which technically returns an array. And we only want the first one. So we're going to return the created message. Okay. This code needs some work, but for now, that's about it as easy as it is to insert into the database. Yeah. You'll be happy to know that this actually does escape all input. This is not vulnerable to SQL injection. Anything that's passed in this object that we passed in gets escaped. So that's nice. Okay. This is fine. Now we're going to use this function in that Twitch listener we created earlier. So in our source library Twitch listener, let's bring in the queries, and then we'll use it. Yeah. Queries. Go up one more to the DB. Grab those queries. Great. And then when we get a message that matches this, we're going to insert it. So we'll say queries.createMessage, and we need to pass in all the good stuff. So we need to pass in all of these properties here. Like this, but they need to be the actual values. It's a little messy, but we're close. We're close. Okay, so now we actually need to grab these values so that way when we pass them in, they get inserted. Happiness is not requiring validations. I mean, that's the thing. If everybody was just nice, then we wouldn't have to validate. Yeah, and so for those of you that are missing the reference to drop Little Bobby tables, it's a reference to XKCD. It's hilarious. It's a classic. Definitely look at that. Okay, so the message ID. We need to look at the tags. I'm actually just going to log these out so we can see what we get. And I'm going to stringify it because there are like nested properties, I think. So we should be able to see all of them. And I'm actually going to comment this insert out. Linzon, thank you for that sub. Very much appreciated. You're new here too, right? I appreciate it. Thank you for that. Thanks for subbing and being here. Okay. Let's see what we get. So earlier, for those of you that weren't here, we did set this up so it's listening to Twitch chat. So in the Twitch chat, if you send a message that starts with happiness is space, it'll show up here. So like I mentioned earlier, an example, happiness is central air conditioning. Happiness is a loving dog. Happiness is not worrying about validation. Happiness is water. Yeah, access to clean water. You know how much water we waste in the US? Happiness is not being sad. Happiness is not using a regex. Happiness is when CJ goes live. Nice. But as you can see, we get a bunch of other happiness is an illusion. Stop it. We get a bunch of other stuff here, and what we care about is the ID. So this is going to be message ID. Here we go. So we have message ID is tags.id, and then username should be message at username, or tags.username. Display name is display dash name. So tags bracket display dash name, like that. Channel ID, is that in here? It's not. For now, I'm just going to set it to Coding Garden. Does anyone know what my Twitch channel ID is? We'll leave the avatar blank. The content will just be the message itself. And then created at will just be a brand new date. So this is right now is when it was created at. We could pull it from an environment variable, but I'm asking, does anyone have easy access to the Twitch API who can give me back my channel ID? Did I call it room ID? Oh, is it room ID? Oh, there it is. That's me. That's me. Never mind. That's me. So this will just be tags at room ID. Great. And thank you, Murdoch. 413, we've confirmed, 413-856-795. That is my unique Coding Garden Twitch ID. So this is great. And it should just work. All right, so I'll save it. The server should restart, and now these things are going to get started inserting into the database. Are we still logging them out? Yeah, we're still logging them out. But if you in the chat say happiness is not, is what Statinin Podpravazdanali says. Happiness is Robert. Drop table students. Yeah, so somebody should try doing this with drop table messages, because if we're vulnerable to SQL injection, our entire table would be gone. Happiness is when you are happy. Happiness is supporting different characters. Happiness is not filtering bad words. Happiness is coding. Happiness is my message in a database. Happiness is waking up, isn't it? Happiness is wearing a beanie. Happiness is CJ streaming. Happiness is drop table messages. Happiness is dabbing on the haters. Happiness is fake. Happiness is Pokemon. Happiness is creating an Android app. Happiness is being alive. Happiness is using UTC date times. Our servers should be, wherever we deploy this, it should be. Happiness is going hiking. And thank you for that resub, So Mama? Ama. I haven't been hiking in a very long time. Very long time. There's a ton of them. Okay, so you can see that it works here. This is some other SQL injection trying to create a new table. But if we go to this UI and select the data, look at all these rows in our data. We have 39 rows in our database. That's great. Look at that. And the SQL injection did not work. Happiness is pronouncing Twitch usernames correctly. Make it ignore case. It is. It should. Yeah. You can have a capital H. It should still work. Happiness is human emotion. Beep boop. Happiness is 3 syllables. Happiness is snow in April. Yeah. Has it snowed? I mean, I don't think it snowed where I've lived, but I'm sure other places. Happiness is being hired after a final interview. Yes. Good luck with that, Mark. Good luck. Happiness is being content with what you don't get to have. Yeah. Happiness is found in every corner of the circle of life. Yeah, actually, so I mean, we're running really low on time. I'll go ahead and tell you what I think happiness is, and it's very similar to what Joe of Oliveira has said. But I think happiness is loving what you have, right? We can get so caught up in what we don't have and like what we want or what we want to achieve, or even like what our goals are in achieving those goals or what we want to do. Like we just want. And the more you want, I think the less happy you are, because you're always trying to fill that void of things that you want. So I think happiness is loving what you have. Whatever you have it. Just be happy with the fact that you have those things. And also think about, there are probably people out there that don't have that. And you can be happy about that. I mean, your happiness is being happy about others' misfortune. I don't know. But that's what I think happiness is being happy with what you have, not wanting for more. Happiness is loving who you are and not who you want to be. Exactly. Yeah. Just be. Just be. It technically did snow in London. Nice. Happiness is a myth. Happiness is when you don't do a double negative. Happiness is endorphins, dopamine, endorphins, and oxytocin. Nice. Happiness is food. Happiness is a stream from Coding Garden. Oh no! Daishorch, you have COVID, but you're saying that you love it. So I guess your happiness is accepting the truth. Yeah, happiness is the field of study that you love. I love programming. I have to say the happiness is felt when you have a child is above anything else I've experienced. I imagine so. Yeah, I have not had any children, but I love my dog a lot. Like, I love my dog, so I can only imagine loving a child that I created or I took part in creating. Happiness is aiming for progression, not perfection. Happiness is when you don't do double negation in one sentence. Yeah. Happiness is the Rust programming language. Yeah, shout out to the Rustations. Do I have it in my history? Team slash Rustation. I always spell it wrong. I got it right. Yeah, there is an entire team of people on Twitch that stream programming in the Rust programming language, so definitely check them out. Happiness is importing happiness. Oh, you know what? Okay, so I have to go to a meeting. But maybe I'll stream this evening. Maybe I'll stream. We'll pick this up tomorrow morning. I'm going to push this code up. But what is actually kind of hilarious is that it's called Joy. It used to be from Happy.js, but the validation library that we're going to use is called Joy, and it came from Happiness, or it's not Happy, which is like Express. It's a backend framework created by the Walmart Labs team. It was called Happy. We could have used Happy to build the app, but regardless, when you see me next time, which will probably be tomorrow morning, we're gonna add validation. But so far, we're on our way, right? We have all these in the database. Now it's just a matter of exposing these as an API endpoint, and then we can create a website. So the website will pull all of these in, and then we can do something interesting with them. One of the thoughts I had was it could almost be like a museum where we have a bunch of different kinds of picture frames, and every picture frame has the happiness quote inside of it with the user that said it, and then you could kind of just like scroll through the gallery of what people have said happiness is. That's one idea. Another idea is to put these quotes like on clouds, and the clouds just kind of animate by, and as people send new ones, new clouds will appear and scroll by. I don't know, but that will be tomorrow. I have to go. I appreciate you all for hanging out with me, and thanks for all the support, and thanks for all your submissions of what is happy. I will note that all of this stuff is technically local, so when I deploy it to the web, we'll have a totally new database with new things inside of it, and I hope that there are not as many troll answers. I hope that you take it seriously and you really do share what makes you happy. Okay, you have a great day as well. We're going to do a raid. I don't know where we're going to go, but wherever we go, share the love, drop a follow if you like what they're doing. Happiness is a fresh start. Exactly, a fresh start tomorrow. But if you're a sub, there's your raid message. You take care too, Limotes. Thank you for that. And if you're not a sub, here's your raid message. And that link that was just shared in the chat is my dog. So if you want to see my dog, you can check him out there. And you're great. You're great. I like you. All right, Murdoch, thank you for the bits. You have a good one too. Wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And until next time, here's this.